creative living, utilizing today's technology with the best of the past to bring you innovative ideas and up-to-date information for creative lifestyles in today's active world. With your host, Sheryl Borden.
Welcome to Creative Living today. We're going to learn how to paint a sewing machine or serger. We'll see how much fun it is to rubber stamp on cookies and then show some design possibilities using push molds. One of my next guests is Claire Rowley, and she's the president and founder of Creative Feet. Claire will show how to use acrylic paint and a template to add designs to sewing machines and sergers, and she has lots of different designs to show us. Claire's from Prescott Valley, Arizona. When we talk about rubber stamping, we usually are referring to craft making, but Julia Usher is a chef and cookbook author, and she's going to show how to actually rubber stamp an already topped cookie, and they're completely edible. She's from St. Louis, Missouri. We'll begin the show today with designer and crafter Ann Butler. She's going to show how to use a wooden wreath, various paints, and no-bake polymer clay to create a variety of fall home decor items. Her business is Ann Butler Designs, and she's from Villard, Minnesota. It's so nice to have you here, Ann. Really, when you work with clay, it's just play, isn't it?
It is.
It's just like those days when we used to work with Play-Doh or regular clay. But you've sort of taken it to a new step.
Yeah. I like to see how elegant I can make it.
And you might tell us about what's different. This does not have to be baked, and that's good.
No, it is a no-bake polymer clay. It's by Makins, and it comes out of the package soft. It's already conditioned. It's not like you have to knead it like you used to have to knead polymer clay.
I know, I was surprised. I thought you had to knead it.
Yeah, no, it's ready to use. It's great. And then you let it dry in the air.
Can do lots of things with it. You made just a very simple clock, piece of scrapbook paper, but the leaves represent the hours, and that's the clay.
Yep.
Wow. And you'll tell us about why some are shiny, why some different things.
Yes.
Halloween, everyone needs their own Halloween mask, don't they?
Yeah, and that was just, I've used leaves on all of these projects just to show you the difference.
Things to do with one mold, so you don't have to put out a big investment, do you? Right up in front, we have a wreath, nice for fall. The thing I like about fall decorating, it goes for so many months. This is really pretty.
And that's a 9-inch wreath. You can have any size. You can cut a piece of cardboard to make a huge wreath.
Oh yeah, just put more leaves on it.
Yep.
Candles, these are little candle holders.
Yep,
that the
candle sleeves.
Candle sleeves, right. You said you made this first one and thought it wasn't fancy enough, so what did you learn by making this second one? What did you do differently?
What I did on this, I wanted to make it bigger, and so because it was going to go up higher on the candle, I took and I wrapped the candle with paper towels and plastic wrap. So I could work right on the candle because the clay has some shrink. That gave it the thickness so I could work on it and glue it, pull it off, let it dry, and then it still went on and off the candle.
And we can't forget our napkin rings. Gosh, with just little
Quick and
scraps you can make so many different things.
Yeah, I mean, with one package of clay, you can do that entire wreath. It depends when you're using the push molds, how thick
you want to make it.
Right.
And we're working with leaves today, but this was kind of fun to show. There's seashore items.
Flowers, it has that great detail in the flowers.
And that's thicker. That looks like the leaves and the flower are a little bit thicker.
And they're just the push molds.
And in front of us we have, well, that's about 10.
Yep.
So there's lots of molds to pick from.
Lots to choose from.
Okay, let's look at the clay and how it comes and what we need to know about it.
Yep, the clay comes packaged. It comes with a solid color or multi-colors.
Okay.
And they come double wrapped, because it dries in the air.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So this is after it's been opened. And I like to use a nonstick scissor just because then the clay won't stick to
so we don't
anything.
have to use all of one log at a time.
Nope. You want to take what you're going to use. Like, this is how much I'm going to use for one of the molds. You can feel how soft that is.
Oh, wow,
And the
you don't have
extra,
to.
you want to keep in a baggie with a baby wipe.
To add moisture.
Yep. Or you can, if you're going to be working with it, you can keep a wet towel over it while you're working.
Okay. And this is one of the molds.
Yep, that's a leaf mold. And all you do is push.
Push, that's why it's called a push mold,
Yep,
isn't it?
you just push it in. Now you can push it very fussy and make sure nothing goes over the edge, but I do
You
things
do it with
fast.
your fingers,
I push it in, pull it out. You can see all that detail.
Yes.
And then I just take a scissor and cut around it.
Now, would you let it dry?
You can do it before or after. It's
I
still
see.
easy enough to cut after.
Okay, so we could just make a whole bunch of leaves.
Yep.
Next morning, come in and cut all of
Yep.
them. I see.
And or you could take an X-Acto knife and cut them. You can go thinner to save on clay if you want it. Like on the mask, that is really thin.
Oh, because you built it up with layers, you don't want
Yep.
each layer to be very thick.
So just by putting that same piece of clay in, you can see how much bigger that is. And that's a much thinner, more delicate leaf.
And if you decided you didn't like that leaf,
just
play with it
do
a
it
minute
again.
and put it in another mold.
Yep, like if you missed a little piece of it or something.
And how do you get the shine and the color, like for instance on this one?
What I use is a metallic powder.
Powder. Oh.
And I'm
Thought maybe
getting
they
it
were
all
painted.
over myself. No, just the metallic powders, and I can take one of these
Okay.
and
Oh, you use a brush, with
brush.
the powder.
and you just put it on there, and then
Kind of rub
suddenly,
it in. Oh.
yep, it gives it that beautiful shine. You can go as little or as much as you want.
I like the way the veins show up when you
makes
put
them
the powder
pop.
on. And can you use, does the powder come in various colors?
It comes in assorted colors, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It comes in just a ton of colors.
And I can see it doesn't take very much.
It takes hardly none. Because of shipping, I think this just kind of shook around a little bit. But I usually use just what's in the cover. You know, I don't, if you dip it into here, you get a
too
ton.
much.
And then you cover like you do on here. Like this, I covered these a lot.
So did you use the same color on the green, all
Yep.
all of them?
I
Oh,
used
okay.
all the gold
I
on
thought
all
maybe
of
you
it.
had to use green on green and so. I see.
No.
That is amazing.
That just kind of brought it all together. And then on this also, I put an eco epoxy over the top of it to give it that glossy shine.
Oh, yeah. This is shiny, but this is much shinier.
Yes.
I see. Well, this is just looks like so much fun to work with. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Julia, it's such a pleasure to have you here. I've just thoroughly enjoyed your book. You have another one out and probably another one up there somewhere that's going to come out soon. And I was telling you how much I love to do scrapbooking and stenciling and card making and all of that. And you said, wait till you see this segment.
I've got the perfect decorating technique
Tell
for you.
me what we're going to do.
We are rubber stamping cookies today. Not
Rubber
paper,
stamping.
but cookies.
And using the same type of
Exact
rubber
same
stamp.
tools. The only difference is that the tools haven't touched anything but food coloring,
Sure.
since you don't want to contaminate them. So we're using regular stamps I find in the hobby store. I'm using uninked felt stamp pads. We'll talk
Not
a little
been
bit about
used,
the different types of pads. Actually, I use an uninked. I prefer an uninked foam pad as opposed to a felt one.
Oh, foam.
And I use food coloring.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at some of these beautiful creations that you've made. And
These have all been
I
stamped.
just couldn't believe that you'd rubber stamped them.
Yeah, so easy. Again, requires not a lot of artistic ability because you just pick the design you like and you apply it to the cookie. I do find that very simple outlines tend to work best, like this one and this one, where there's a lot of stamping involved, a lot of patterning on the middle. It's sometimes harder to get a clean imprint, but we're going to try to do one with that particular stamp today. And very versatile. I've got a spring one, I've got a holiday one, and I've got a Valentine's one. Just by changing out the ink color and the embellishments, you can get a lot of range with this particular
You bet.
technique.
And I love it because all of these techniques are explained in the book. And
They
they're
are.
very
There are
easy
15
to
of them,
follow.
and this is one of those.
Okay.
With this technique, we start with an already iced cookie. I use royal icing.
And you said this is your mother's sugar cookie
It
recipe.
is my mom's sugar cookie recipe. Her
Good.
distinct touch on it was that she sprinkled the cookie sheet with anise seeds first and baked them directly on that.
top?
Yeah, on top of the seeds. I don't have them on them today,
I bet
but
it smells
imparts,
good in the
yeah,
kitchen.
it smells great. It imparts great flavor and texture. And then, of course, you want to flavor your icing that goes on top too to match the cookie flavor. Here, these have already been iced, and I talk about how to top coat them smoothly like this in the book.
They are, and that's with that royal icing.
With the royal icing, it dries very quickly. Royal icing is a mixture of confectioner's sugar and egg whites, and the protein in the egg whites causes it to set very fast, which is good for this technique because we want the top coat to be thoroughly dry before we stamp. We're applying pressure, and if it were only partially dry, you know, by the time you stamped it, you crack through the cookie. It will appear dry much sooner. It'll dry to a dull matte finish. But don't let that deceive you because it will actually still be wet underneath. I usually let them dry overnight, about 8 hours uncovered before I do
really
this.
make sure they're dry.
Yeah. So I've got one here.
Now these are felt pads, you said.
The two types of pads you'll find uninked. They're a little hard to find in the craft store, so I do buy these online. And there's a felt pad and there's a foam pad.
The felt is what we probably mostly use for scrapbooking,
Yeah, but it's
isn't
firm. And you're probably familiar with that. Look how firm it is. So it's
yeah.
not too absorbent. And what that means is in the course of working with it, even on one cookie, it'll dry out, and I have to re-ink it.
Oh, I
so
see
while
why.
it will work perfectly well, I actually prefer to work with the uninked. This has red food coloring on. I won't have you touch that. But if you touch this one, this is a foam pad. It's a lot spongier, so it's more
like
absorbent.
those makeup pads.
Yeah, exactly. So I will, you know, put ink on this. If I cap it off and put it in a plastic bag, it'll stay inked and moist for at least a week. So I get more
perfect.
mileage out of my food coloring. The food coloring I use, as I use for tinting the icings, is a soft gel or liquid gel food coloring.
Right, and so you're going to use that on the foam pad, but that's also what you tint your...
Yes, and
I
it's
see.
very concentrated, so a little bit goes a long way, and that's the advantage of it, especially when you're icing with it. It won't mess with the consistency of your icing so much. So
Just like you ink a pad,
yeah,
you're
so I
doing
just
it
ink
with
it,
gel.
you know, and because it is a viscous kind of concentrated food coloring, it will sit on the top, and I don't want that much excess on top, so I will always blot it first to smooth it out.
That's a good tip.
And I keep a separate pad for each color. If you mix the black
sure.
and red or whatever colors you're using, I've got black and red today, you're going to end up with a funny combination of colors on your cookie top. So I'm just doing what I would normally do to stamp, making sure it's totally covered. And then the harder thing is centering it on the cookie, I find, with this technique, because you can't see through the stamp. So you kind of have to wing it there. And you don't also want to move it,
Oh,
or you'll smudge it.
right.
Not much. Now, I will probably apply more pressure than I would if rubber stamping on paper because the icing never dries quite perfectly flat on top.
Oh.
There's always a little divot in the middle, so you'll see I'm especially applying pressure towards the center of the stamp, and I'm pushing on it pretty hard, and I want to make sure I get every angle of it. You know,
I
every
suppose if the
edge of
cookie
it.
breaks, you just eat it and
Yeah,
start
but it won't.
again.
That stamp wasn't super. It's nice, but you'll see I don't think I had my pad thoroughly inked in the middle, so I missed some spots. You know, but one thing you can do is come in with a small brush. If you hand me one of those, if this does happen, you can actually paint in. If you haven't missed as much as I have on this stamp, come in and just paint back in some of the detail.
Oh, well, that's kind
So
of
you
fun
know, it's not
too.
a lost cause if you happen to have messed up a stamp.
And after you do a few, I bet you get the feel for it, don't you?
You do. And again, this was a more complicated shape because there's a lot of area coverage with the stamp. And I do find that these thinner outlines tend to be a little more foolproof.
Now, I've seen
just to
some
prove that,
stamps
I'll
that
show
are,
you.
okay, I've seen
ahead.
some of the stamps that are clear so that you can
Oh yeah,
see through
that would
them.
be
Those would be good too.
Those would be good because you'll be better able to center. I was a little off center here.
Oh, so you noticed those things. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, no, I don't like the way that stamp worked. So, and again, there's a lot of area it had to cover, so that's kind of more of an advanced stamp. But you can, as I
So
said,
start
fix
with
it
some that are a little,
a little easier. These
lines.
simpler lines tend to be better. I hope. Let's see how that
I
goes.
kind of like this rubber ducky. I think I could
He's
do that
very
one.
cute. I love the spring guy. So I'm going to make sure he's adequately covered and center him on this yellow cookie. This is a little cat with.
That's cute.
Yeah, it's really cute. But again, I need to make sure I'm applying
Press on
pressure
it.
kind of all over the pattern. And I'm not, the royal icing kind of reinforces the cookie, so you're not too likely to break it. I've never broken one doing this.
And we do want to point out, all of these are edible, but I can't imagine somebody wanting to eat your cookies
That's a
because
lot
I'd
better.
save it forever. Oh, that's beautiful. That just looks perfect.
And now, might be too plain for your taste. I like the graphic nature of the black against the light icing. But if you want, you can come back in with a royal icing. Now, I've thinned this to a much looser consistency. I call it the consistency for beadwork. It's loose and it leaves nice round dots. And I'm going to use that to go around the perimeter of the cookie and also to fill in some of the color on these flowers. Whoops, yeah, thanks. We'll make sure we can see that.
Oh, yeah, that
So
that
you
little
can-
touch of color.
Yeah, it just adds a little
in 3D. It gives it a...
pizzazz. It gives it, yes, I like the relief it creates. And then I can create slightly bigger dots just by applying more pressure. Let me turn that.
Oh,
to create a larger dot, or you can open up the tip of your cone a little bit more.
So you don't tend to use the couplers and the tips?
You know, very rarely, and if I want to create texture with the icing, I'll use a star tip or a leaf tip or something like that, but you need a really thick icing for that. That's the difference. Otherwise, if you already use something this loose, a thick royal icing, but if I were to use it this consistency, if it went through that tip, it wouldn't hold its shape. It would just, so, but for dots, you want it very thin. And again, my book, Ultimate Cookies, goes into all the different consistency adjustments to get it the way you want it. So that's what you would do. And you can come back in with green or another color to do the leaves. And then it's basically finished.
And we could do this for Christmas, for, of course, Valentine's, just any holiday. Just change your color of ink.
One of my favorite Christmas stamps.
Oh, that's
Again, a very simple line shape. So it's easier to stamp with those particular kinds of stamps.
Well, thank you so much for showing us how easy this is to do. I'm just ready to go to work right now.
Happy decorating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Claire, thank you so much for coming, and I want everyone to know that you drove here carrying 8 sewing machines in your vehicle. Because when you were here before, you taped some wonderful segments on using the presser feet that you designed and that are geared for wonderful things, and we'll be talking about that too. But I guess what everybody noticed was you had a sewing machine that wasn't white.
That's right.
Like the blue one we have here. How in the world did you have the courage to paint your sewing machine?
Well, it makes people understand that my creative feet fit all sewing machines if they can't tell what brand the sewing machine is.
Oh, I
so
see.
That's what made me start painting them, and now I'm known for having a painted sewing machine, so if I don't have one, people don't think I'm me.
You're not you. And so people will know this machine and this machine, both baby
They're
locks,
the same
they're
thing,
exactly
so the before
same.
and the after.
After. Well, they are beautiful, but you're an artist, you've been painting for many, many years, but you say that even those of us who aren't really artistic can do this, and you have a new product called Stick and Rinse that's going to be very helpful, right?
That's right. It's a template that washes away, allowing people, even if you had an aneurysm, like my friend Terry, she actually painted her sewing machine as well using just sponges.
Wow.
And children, all the way up to even children like us can paint
older
anything.
children. Well, and we might as well say up front, because we don't have time to go through every step, but you have a great DVD that people can get, and that way they can play it, pause it, go back and paint their machine, come back.
A lot safer to learn from my mistakes than to make your own.
Make your own. And machines are so expensive. I know people have asked you, why would you paint it?
Yeah, because things shouldn't be just plain white.
Well, we're anxious to learn how. And there are some safety features that you wanted to point out.
Yes, this is an electronic device, so and we're going to be using water. So you want to make sure that you unplug it from any electrical source. And then we're going to use different things like painter's tape. Painter's tape and masking tape are completely different. If you leave masking tape on something long enough, the adhesive will transfer onto the surface. So I always use artist tape, which you can use not just for covering areas like your throat plate.
So you're covering where water might get down in the bobbin.
Yes, and into electronic boards if you have a computerized machine like this one. But you can also use artist tape in different sizes and to
make stripes or designs?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then when you're done and the paint has completely dried, then you can peel it off and it won't peel the paint up. That's the difference between artist tape and painter's tape when you go to the art supply store versus the paint store.
Okay. And one thing I guess everybody asks you, well, won't that design, whatever that design is that's painted on this part, won't that come off on your fabric when you're sewing?
It will if you just simply stick a sticker of our water soluble stabilizer printed onto your machine, and it can rub off like this is just an ink transfer, but on a color like this, you can see the butterfly was printed on the paper first, and then I taped this Stick and Rinse over it and print again, and now we have a sticker.
You sort of make your own tattoo.
Yes. So you can apply that, but if you apply it here, it would be only applied on the surface of the machine if you're going to wipe it away. And we do that by using a simple Q-tip and water, and you wet the area that you want to paint. And you let it soak for a little while, then use an ordinary toothpick and then wipe it away using, not your finger, but a paper towel. And now you have a clean surface, and now even if you have no paintbrushes, you can use a Q-tip
Paint with a Q-tip. Oh.
and just dab it on, or your finger if you want to be a little kid or have children around. And you can mix and make, by just tapping, blend these together. And if you don't like what you did, since we're using acrylic paint,
It's a water-based paint.
you can wipe it away and try again.
Start over.
And the nice thing about this is the stabilizer remains and is a template or protection against your sewing machine getting damaged. Actually, not that. It's a protection to keep the paint from going into the area you're
Right.
not painting.
Even
it.
though we could see that red still around the edge, it's not going to be on the sewing machine.
Right. And then when we go to the next area, it's definitely easier with a paintbrush for me. So we use paintbrush, and you can just tab it. Now when we want to go do this area, we'll remove it again and enter the next color.
Do you suggest just removing one area at a time?
Yes, that way you can be messy and go over an area and it won't
Oh,
actually be
that
on the
makes
machine.
sense.
Then you go to wet that area and wipe it away. And that's how anybody can paint using sponges. Ordinary kitchen sponges as well can be used for that.
Let's see how you would do a stencil on top.
So another application would be to use stencils that are available in stores. This is a fun one. And you should apply a spray adhesive to the back of
To
the
hold
stencil.
it.
That way it will have an airtight hold on there. And then you can use some sponge and just go like this.
Dab it.
And the reason you want to make sure you use spray adhesive on the back is so it doesn't slip. And you see you have a little bit there. And you can also use sponges to create backgrounds.
Kind of that
on the
faux finish look people do on
And this seems scary,
walls
but remember, this
I
can just
know.
easily be wiped off. And now we're going to go ahead with one of my favorite colors here.
You like teal,
I do.
blue, all colors.
I love blue.
And while you're doing that, you said we can paint with fingernail polish, we can paint with acrylics.
Yes,
all
and
kinds of
always make
products.
sure that you refer to the DVD before you apply fingernail
Okay.
polish. That's a permanent bond.
Right.
And we also seal this. If you love it, you seal it. If you don't love it, like my niece Monica painted this machine, and in 5 years she may not like it at all. She can wipe it completely clean and
Because
start
this
over
hasn't
again.
been sealed
because
with,
it hasn't been sealed.
Something like
With an
this, a matte
artist
finish of
sealant,
some
as
sort.
shown on the DVD. So-
Okay, that's
And
good
if
to
you
know.
can't paint and you just got to have something on your machine, you can print out our sticker and peel it back. Simply stick it onto your machine. As long as it's not in the area where your fabric will be sewing, and then you have a tattoo on your sewing machine.
And then this peels off?
It'll
or do we
peel
leave
off
it?
whenever you're ready to peel it off. Otherwise,
Okay, otherwise it stays on
you
there.
have a tattoo on your machine.
But
that-
we might show, this is the product, and this is kind of what it looks like when you run this through your printer. An
It's
inkjet
clear
printer.
first. You print on your paper first. That way you know where it's going to print, and this way you don't waste ink printing
yeah,
or waste the
words or
stabilizer by printing words. And then you apply after printing onto the machine, and that is how Monica painted the front of that machine.
Wow.
And so it is a very
amazing.
relaxing, easy way to paint anything, including different items inside your house, like your mixers and.
And you have a little spool stand that you use.
Yes, and
for
this is
sewing.
100% nail polish.
Oh, is it?
So you would use the sticker to help you print the flowers on there, and otherwise you can just kind of.
Freehand.
And I don't know, I don't use the paintbrush that comes in the nail polish bottle.
Oh, no, you probably use
Yeah.
one of your others that's
So-
a better shape. So gosh, I guess there's no limit to what all we can paint.
That's right.
What is it you said they say about you if it's...
If it sits still long enough, it's going to get painted.
Well, I think this would be so much fun to watch the video, and then if you had a machine, and maybe we could start on something like this until we sort of felt
Yes,
more
actually,
comfortable.
I teach and recommend that you paint the case of your sewing machine first.
Oh, that's a good idea. In fact, that's what this is. This is
Yes,
the case to
that is
this
the
machine.
case.
Great
Yeah.
idea. Well, thank you so much for going to all the trouble and for showing us that we can do it too.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed the show today. Next time on Creative Living, we'll learn how to quilt. We'll talk about adopting a stress-free atmosphere for cooking and show how to use a double cord presser foot. One of my next guests is a quilter and author, and she's taught many people how to quilt. She'll talk about why we quilt and how each quilt tells its own story. So if anyone has tried to quilt in the past and been disappointed, Marcy says yes, you can quilt, and with her tips you can. Another guest will talk about how to adopt stress-free cooking at home by having the right energy in the kitchen. This includes music, color, measurements, and a sense of humor. And finally, we'll learn what a double cord presser foot can do, and my guest will demonstrate using it. She explains that it can be used with any utility, decorative, or quilt stitch, and she'll also show how to do couching and piping with this foot. I hope you'll plan to join me next time for Creative Living.
We are very pleased to offer a special booklet that accompanies this series of Creative Living. We are celebrating our 40th year on PBS. This booklet is titled the 40th Anniversary Series, and it features a wonderful collection of ideas and information, and it's available free of charge on our website. Posted as a PDF file, you can simply download the entire booklet or just the segments you're most interested in. For your copy of this commemorative booklet, go to our website at kenw.org and then click on Creative Living. Scroll down to the booklet section and you can click on this booklet or on any of the other booklets we have available online. We would like to invite you to sign up for our free e-newsletter too. Go to kenw.org and click on the Sign Up Now button and input your email address. That's all there is to it. We would also like to ask you to become a fan of Creative Living on Facebook. Go to facebook.com and in the search window type in Creative Living with Sheryl Borden. Thanks so much. We look forward to hearing from you.